Our next look at commas adds another layer of complexity. I realize this can get confusing, so if you feel lost, that's okay. Go back and watch the previous Grammar Buster videos as a reminder, and, of course, email your professor if you need additional assistance. This time, we'll be looking at commas with independent and dependent clauses. Of course, the first question we have to answer is, what is a clause? Lots of people who write with impeccable mechanical precision learned what clauses were by feel and can't provide a technical definition, so you'll have a leg up on them. A clause is a grammatical construction, basically just a group of related words, that has both a subject and a verb, or to use the terms we've been using, a character and an action. A simple sentence and an independent clause are the exact same thing. An independent clause, as its name suggests, can stand by itself, independent and alone, and doesn't need anything else to make it a complete sentence. A dependent clause, on the other hand, is a clause, but isn't a complete sentence, so we have to attach it to an independent clause. If you'll remember, an independent clause can become dependent if we add a subordinating word or words to it, like although, while, and even though. Let's take a look at some examples. In this first one, we have a subject and a verb, or if you prefer, a character and an action or state of being. Our subject or character is I, and our verb or state of being is want. Since this has both criteria, it's a clause, and since it makes sense by itself, it's an independent clause. Our second example has both a character, I, and an action, have had, but it can't stand alone since it has the word although at the beginning. If we were to read this example in a book or if someone said it to us, we'd expect something else to follow it. Our final example isn't a clause at all. It has a character or subject, the movie, but there's no verb, so it can't be a clause. Now that we've got an understanding of both independent and dependent clauses, let's look at how their use controls where we place commas. If the dependent clause comes first, we have to separate it from the independent clause with a comma. Look at our two examples. We have a subordinating word at the beginning, while. We have a clause, since there is a character and an action, and this clause is followed by another clause with another character and action. Two clauses, one subordinate and one independent. Since they are in this order, we have to separate them with a comma. Our second example is exactly the same. A subordinating word, a clause, followed by another clause. You don't have to think all the way through this process every time you write sentences. You can likely develop a feel for when you have a subordinate clause followed by an independent clause. But what if they are reversed? Here you can see the same two sentences, each comprised of two clauses, but since the independent clause comes first, there's no comma separating them.